The alien queen froze, not in fear, not in anger. In the middle of a crowded royal chamber, surrounded by generals, advisors, and representatives from 100 star systems, she simply stopped moving. The grand hall fell silent as thousands watched their ruler stare at a single image floating above the council floor. The image showed a human, an ordinary human by every known measure. No royal bloodline, no military rank, no political power, just a survivor from Earth. For several long seconds, nobody dared speak. The queen's golden eyes remained fixed on the projection while memories she had buried for decades came rushing back with terrifying force, because she knew that face. And according to every record in the galaxy, that should have been impossible. The Galactic Alliance had always viewed humanity with suspicion. Earth was classified as a death world, one of the most dangerous categories of inhabited planets ever discovered. Its gravity was higher than the galactic average. Its predators were relentless. Its weather systems could erase entire cities. Disease, natural disasters, and violent ecosystems shaped every generation born there. Most advanced species considered Earth a nightmare. Humans called it home. That alone unsettled much of the galaxy. For centuries, alien civilizations had assumed that intelligent life evolved in stable environments. Comfort produced progress. Safety produced wisdom. Cooperation produced civilization. Humanity shattered that belief. They came from a world where survival was never guaranteed. A world where children learned resilience before adulthood. A world where persistence often mattered more than strength. And somehow, against every prediction, humans thrived. The Alliance scientists called it a biological anomaly. The military called it a strategic concern. The citizens of countless worlds called it madness. The Queen remembered calling it something else. Hope. Long before she became ruler of an empire, before fleets obeyed her commands and entire sectors bowed before her throne, she had been a frightened child lost on a hostile frontier world. The memory remained painfully clear. A transport accident. A burning escape pod. An unfamiliar wilderness. And something hunting her. That planet had not been Earth, but it had been deadly enough. Toxic storms swept across its surface. Massive predators ruled its forest. Few adults could survive alone for more than a few days. She had been a child, alone, terrified, and certain she was going to die. Then the human appeared. He had emerged from the darkness carrying nothing but a damaged survival pack and an old plasma cutter. At first, she thought he was another threat. Everything about him seemed dangerous. The scars covering his arms, the blood staining his clothes, the exhausted determination in his eyes. Yet when he saw the frightened alien child, he did something unexpected. He helped her. For weeks they struggled through deadly terrain together. He carried her when she could no longer walk. He stood guard while predators circled their camp. He crossed poisoned rivers, climbed broken cliffs, and faced dangers that should have killed them both. Again and again he chose her survival over his own safety. Even when rescue finally arrived, he refused any reward. The young princess never even learned his name. One day he was there, the next he was gone. Only a fading memory remained. Years passed. The child became a queen. The galaxy changed. Humanity entered the wider stars. And eventually the face of her mysterious savior faded into history, until now. The council chamber remained silent as intelligence officers continued their report. The human in the projection had recently saved an Alliance convoy during a pirate attack near the outer sectors. Witnesses described impossible acts of courage. They claimed he entered a damaged vessel filled with radiation, rescued trapped civilians, and somehow survived conditions that should have been fatal. The room buzzed with disbelief. The Queen heard none of it, because she was staring at a small detail most others had missed, a scar above his left eye, a scar she remembered. A scar from decades ago, the same human. The same impossible human who had saved her life when she was a child. But that made no sense. The rescue had happened nearly 40 years earlier. Humans did not live that long without aging. The records were clear. The science was undeniable. And yet the evidence stood before her. The Queen slowly rose from her throne. Every voice in the chamber died instantly. Then she spoke a single question that sent shockwaves through the Galactic Alliance. Find him, because if that human truly was her childhood savior, Then someone had been hiding one of the greatest secrets in galactic history. And whatever that secret was, it was powerful enough to make an alien queen forget how to speak. For a long moment, nobody in the council chamber moved. The queen's order echoed through the vast hall, leaving military commanders and diplomats exchanging uneasy looks. Finding one human should have been simple. Humanity was now a recognized member of the Galactic Alliance. Their colonies stretched across dozens of systems, and their ships traveled nearly every major trade route. Yet the intelligence officers looked nervous. That alone caught the Queen's attention. The lead officer swallowed carefully before speaking. "Your Majesty, we have already attempted to locate him." A strange silence followed. "And?" The officer hesitated. "We failed." Murmurs immediately spread throughout the chamber. Failure was rare for Alliance intelligence. They possessed surveillance networks spanning thousands of worlds. Entire civilizations had been mapped, monitored, and cataloged through their systems. Losing track of one person was almost unheard of. Losing track of a human was even stranger. The Queen slowly narrowed her eyes. "Explain." The officer activated another holographic display. A series of records appeared in the air. Medical reports, military databases, civilian registrations, colonial archives. Every file carried the same image, the same human. The same scar, the same face. The room grew quieter with each new document. The dates made no sense. One record placed him on a mining colony 32 years ago. Another showed him assisting disaster relief 26 years ago. A third listed him as a civilian contractor 18 years ago. Then another, and another, and another. The problem was obvious. He looked exactly the same in every image. No visible aging, no noticeable physical changes, no explanation. The Queen felt a chill crawl through her thoughts. Around her, scientists and advisors began whispering theories. Genetic engineering, cloning, identity fraud, advanced medical treatments. None of the explanations fully fit the evidence. Humans were remarkable, but they were not immortal. At least, that was what the galaxy believed. The lead officer enlarged one final report. "This is the most recent sighting." The image showed the human standing beside a damaged transport vessel. Rescue workers surrounded him while injured civilians were evacuated. The report had been filed only 3 days earlier. Again, he appeared exactly as he had decades before. The Queen stared at the image. The same eyes, the same scar, the same expression she remembered from her childhood. A human survivor who always seemed exhausted yet somehow refused to quit. The memory pulled her backward through time, back to that deadly frontier world, back to the endless days of fear, back to the lessons she had learned from someone the galaxy barely understood. Humans did not approach danger like other species. Most civilizations evolved on relatively stable worlds. Their instincts favored caution, prediction, and risk avoidance. Humans came from Earth. Nothing about Earth was predictable. Volcanoes erupted without warning. Oceans generated storms large enough to swallow entire fleets. Predators stalked forests, deserts, mountains, and seas. Even microscopic organisms could kill. Every part of the planet seemed determined to challenge survival. And humans adapted to all of it. The Queen remembered watching her rescuer navigate impossible situations. When food became scarce, he found food. When storms arrived, he built shelter. When predators attacked, he found a way to survive. Not because he was stronger, not because he was smarter, because humans refused to surrender. That stubborn determination fascinated and frightened many species throughout the Alliance. Human explorers routinely landed on worlds classified as too dangerous for scientific teams. Human colonists settled regions others considered uninhabitable. Human engineers volunteered for repairs in environments that made alien specialists nervous. Many aliens viewed such behavior as irrational. Humans called it Tuesday. The Queen had witnessed it firsthand. That was why the mystery troubled her so deeply. She understood human resilience. She did not understand impossibility. And this human was becoming impossible. Another intelligence officer suddenly stepped forward. His face had gone pale. "Your Majesty, there is something else." The chamber turned toward him. "What is it?" the Queen asked. The officer activated a classified report. Several security seals flashed across the display before disappearing. A star map emerged. Gasps spread through the room. The highlighted location lay far beyond Alliance territory, beyond established colonies, beyond normal exploration zones, deep inside a region marked with warning symbols. A forbidden sector, the officer spoke carefully. 3 weeks ago, an automated probe detected activity in this system. The Queen immediately recognized the coordinates. Every ruler in the galaxy knew them. No ship willingly entered that region. Not after what happened there? Continue, she ordered. The officer enlarged the image. A blurry transmission appeared. The quality was terrible. Static covered most of the recording. But one figure remained visible. A single human standing against a violent storm beneath a black sky. The Queen's breath caught. It was him. Before anyone could react, the recording advanced. Something enormous moved behind the human. Something hidden within the darkness. Something larger than any known life form ever recorded. The image abruptly cut to black. Every person in the chamber sat frozen. No one spoke. No one breathed. Then the system identified the transmission source. The words appeared across the holographic display. Origin, Death World Designation Omega Prime. Galactic access prohibited, threat level, extinction event, and somehow, for reasons no one could explain, the human the Queen had searched for all her life was standing there. For several minutes after the transmission ended, the council chamber remained silent. Omega Prime. The name alone carried enough weight to unsettle entire governments. Officially, it was classified as an uninhabitable death world. Unofficially, it was something far worse. Exploration fleets had vanished there. Long-range probes frequently stopped transmitting without explanation. Even military expeditions avoided the region. Nobody knew exactly what existed on Omega Prime, only that something did. And now a human had been seen standing on its surface. The Queen immediately ordered a full investigation. Within hours, analysts, historians, military officers, and xenobiologists flooded the royal archives searching for answers. The deeper they looked, the stranger the mystery became. A young intelligence researcher was among the first to notice a disturbing pattern. Every major crisis involving humanity seemed to include reports of the same man. A colony evacuation 30 years earlier. A reactor containment emergency 22 years ago. A deep space rescue mission 16 years ago. A pirate siege 8 years ago. Different locations. Different witnesses. Different circumstances. Yet somehow the same face appeared every time. The researcher stared at the evidence for hours. No official records connected the incidents. No government acknowledged his existence. Yet the pattern refused to disappear. It was as if someone had carefully erased his history while leaving traces behind. When the report reached the Queen, her concern only grew. Meanwhile, the news of the Omega Prime transmission began spreading beyond the palace. Rumors moved quickly through the Galactic Alliance. Alien citizens debated endlessly across communication networks. Many reacted with disbelief. Others reacted with fear. Some simply blamed humanity. That was nothing new. Humans had always challenged galactic assumptions. Many species preferred predictable behavior. Humans rarely cooperated with predictability. One popular commentator publicly declared that no sane human would willingly enter Omega Prime. Thousands of human viewers immediately responded by listing dozens of dangerous places humans regularly visited for recreation. The alien commentator deleted the discussion shortly afterward. The misunderstanding between humans and other species had existed since first contact. Aliens often mistook human confidence for recklessness. Humans often mistook alien caution for fear. Neither side was entirely wrong. On a station orbiting the edge of Alliance space, a group of alien traders gathered around a public broadcast discussing the Omega Prime sighting. One merchant shook his head. Why would a human go there? Another laughed nervously. The same reason they climb mountains. What mountains? The dangerous ones. The entire table groaned. That answer somehow explained everything and nothing. Far away, aboard a survey vessel approaching the forbidden sector, another debate was unfolding. The ship belonged to a scientific task force authorized by the Queen herself. Its mission was simple: locate the human. Determine whether the transmission was authentic, avoid dying. The final objective was receiving the most attention. The crew consisted primarily of non-human specialists. Only 2 humans were on board. One worked in engineering. The other served as a survival consultant. This arrangement initially confused the alien scientists. Why bring survival experts to a research mission? 3 days into the journey, they stopped asking. The human consultant spent every briefing discussing worst-case scenarios, equipment failures, atmospheric contamination, structural collapse, predator encounters, food shortages, navigation errors, medical emergencies. The list never seemed to end. Eventually, an alien researcher interrupted. "You speak as though all of these disasters are likely," the human shrugged. "Not likely possible. That distinction is important. It keeps people alive." The room fell quiet. To the human, preparation was normal. To many alien crew members, it sounded exhausting. Yet, as Omega Prime drew closer, more scientists found themselves listening carefully. The planet's reputation was impossible to ignore. Sensor readings already showed abnormalities. Extreme radiation storms, unstable magnetic fields, violent atmospheric disturbances, energy signatures that defied classification. None of it made sense. One night, the ship received a corrupted transmission from a distant relay beacon. Most of the message was unreadable. Only a few words survived. The bridge crew replayed the recording repeatedly. "Do not descend. Static. Not alone. More static." Then a final sentence. "He is still fighting." The message ended. Every officer on the bridge exchanged uneasy looks. Still fighting against what? No answer followed. Back in the royal capital, the Queen found herself unable to focus on routine matters. Her thoughts kept returning to that distant frontier world from her childhood. She remembered countless details she had forgotten over the years. The human building shelters from wreckage. The human teaching her how to stay calm during storms. The human refusing to give up even when injured. At the time, she had assumed he was extraordinary. Now, she wondered if he had simply been human. That realization unsettled her more than any mystery. Perhaps the galaxy still did not truly understand humanity. Perhaps they had spent centuries measuring human strength while ignoring human determination. Perhaps that was the reason humans kept surprising everyone. The reason they survived worlds others feared. The reason they crossed impossible frontiers. The reason one man might stand alone on Omega Prime. Days later, the survey vessel finally reached the edge of the Forbidden System. The bridge screens illuminated with the first direct view of the planet. Several crew members immediately fell silent. The world looked wrong. Massive storms covered entire continents. Dark clouds churned across the atmosphere like living things. Lightning stretched thousands of kilometers across the surface. And deep beneath those clouds, sensors detected movement. Not one life form. Not dozens, millions. Some readings were larger than mountains. Others appeared and disappeared without explanation. Then the ship's communications officer gasped. A new transmission had just arrived. Unlike the others, this one was perfectly clear. Only a single sentence appeared on every screen aboard the vessel. The message came from the planet below, and it contained a warning directed specifically at the approaching expedition. "Turn back before it notices you." For several seconds, nobody aboard the survey vessel spoke. The warning remained displayed across every screen. "Turn back before it notices you." The message carried no identification code, no transmission source, no visible sender. Yet everyone knew who had sent it. The human. The same human who had appeared throughout decades of galactic history. The same human standing on the most feared death world ever discovered. A nervous silence settled over the bridge. Then the captain broke it. "Can we determine what it refers to?" The answer came immediately. No, that single word made the atmosphere even heavier. Outside the observation windows, Omega Prime rotated beneath them like a living nightmare. Entire continents disappeared beneath endless storms. Mountain-sized energy signatures drifted beneath cloud layers. Sensor readings constantly contradicted themselves. Nothing about the planet followed known scientific rules. The crew had studied dangerous worlds before. They had explored volcanic planets, frozen wastelands, toxic moons, and predator-rich ecosystems. Omega Prime was different. It felt less like a planet and more like a warning. Meanwhile, far away in the royal capital, the Queen watched the incoming reports in real time. Every update increased her concern. Every new scan revealed another impossible anomaly. Yet one fact remained unchanged: the human was still alive. Against all logic, against all probability, against a world that seemed determined to erase anything that landed on it. A strange feeling began spreading through the Galactic Alliance. At first it was simple curiosity, then disbelief, then something else, respect. Millions of citizens followed the reports as news networks covered the mystery nonstop. Alien commentators who once mocked human risk-taking now found themselves running out of explanations. How was a single human surviving on a planet that terrified entire civilizations? The question echoed across hundreds of star systems, and nobody had an answer. Aboard the survey vessel, the crew finally reached a decision. They would enter orbit, not descend. Not yet, just gather information. The plan sounded reasonable. Unfortunately, Omega Prime had other ideas. The moment the vessel crossed into high orbit, alarms exploded across every deck. Power fluctuations, sensor failures, navigation disruptions, communications interference. The bridge suddenly erupted into controlled chaos. Shield instability detected, magnetic field surge approaching. We lost 3 external sensor arrays. Attempting recalibration. The crew worked frantically. Even the human engineer looked concerned. That alone unsettled everyone else. Then something unexpected happened. A signal appeared, strong, clear, impossible. The same human had contacted them directly. His face appeared across the main display. For the first time, the entire crew saw him clearly. He looked older than the images suggested. Not physically, emotionally, his eyes carried the weight of someone who had spent far too many years surviving impossible situations. Behind him, black storm clouds rolled across an alien horizon. Lightning illuminated gigantic silhouettes moving in the distance. The crew watched in stunned silence. The human glanced over his shoulder briefly before looking back at the camera. "You shouldn't be here." The captain stepped forward. "We were sent to find you." "I know. You know who sent us?" A faint smile appeared. The Queen never was good at giving up. For the first time in decades, the Queen herself heard his voice. She sat frozen before the transmission. The same calm tone, the same steady confidence. Memories flooded back immediately, the frightened child she had once been. The human who carried her through storms. The protector who never stopped moving forward. Then the smile vanished from his face. His expression turned serious. "Listen carefully. Every person watching lean closer. The planet is waking up." Confused looks spread across the bridge. "What does that mean?" The captain asked. The human hesitated. For the first time, uncertainty appeared in his eyes. That frightened the crew more than any warning. "I don't have enough time to explain everything." A deep rumble echoed through the transmission. The ground beneath him visibly trembled. The storm clouds behind him shifted, not from wind, from movement. Something enormous was rising. Even through the distorted camera feed, its scale seemed impossible. Mountains disappeared behind a dark shape. Entire sections of the horizon vanished. Several crew members stopped breathing. The human looked back again. This time there was no mistaking his concern. Then he turned toward the camera. "You need to leave orbit immediately." The captain shook his head. "We're not leaving you." The human actually laughed. A short, tired laugh. The kind shared by people who had heard impossible statements before. "You sound exactly like humans." The bridge crew exchanged confused glances. The captain was not human, neither were most of the officers. Yet the human seemed sincere, as if he genuinely meant it, as if refusing to abandon someone in danger was not a human trait, but a lesson humans had taught others. The realization hit several crew members at once. Perhaps humanity's greatest strength was never their endurance. Perhaps it was their willingness to stand beside others when survival seemed impossible. Before anyone could respond, another alarm erupted across the ship. Then another. Then another. The communications officer turned pale. "Captain, what is it?" The officer swallowed hard. "Something is approaching from the surface." The main display shifted to external sensors. Every person on the bridge stared in disbelief. Thousands of objects were rising through the atmosphere, not ships, not missiles, living creatures, and they were heading directly toward orbit. Far below, Omega Prime's endless storms parted for the first time in recorded history. Something ancient had awakened. Something powerful enough to make the human abandon his position and reach for equipment beside him. As the transmission began breaking apart, his final words echoed across the bridge. "Whatever happens next, do not let it reach the rest of the galaxy." Then the signal died, and the approaching swarm accelerated. The bridge shook violently as the swarm surged upward from Omega Prime. Thousands of enormous life forms burst through the storm layers, their bodies glowing with strange energy that distorted every sensor on the ship. Panic spread through parts of the crew, but the captain forced everyone back to their stations. "Hold formation. Do not fire unless absolutely necessary." The order surprised many officers. A few days earlier, most of them would have viewed survival as the only priority. Now something had changed. The human's warning echoed in every mind. Do not let it reach the rest of the galaxy. Whatever was happening below, one exhausted human had spent decades standing between Omega Prime and countless inhabited worlds. The realization was difficult to ignore. The transmission screen suddenly flickered back to life. The human appeared again, running across a rocky plateau as lightning exploded around him. Behind him, the horizon seemed alive. The enormous shape rising from the planet was finally becoming visible. Gasps filled the bridge. It was not a creature in the normal sense. It was a living ecosystem. A colossal life form so large that entire mountain ranges covered parts of its body. The storms surrounding Omega Prime were not random weather systems. They were generated by the creature itself. For centuries, probes and explorers had mistaken its movements for natural planetary activity. The truth was far more terrifying. Omega Prime was not merely a death world. It was a prison. The human's voice cut through the stunned silence. "The first expedition discovered it nearly 50 years ago." The captain stared at the screen. "You were part of that expedition?" The human nodded. "We came looking for resources. Instead, we found this." Another violent tremor shook the ground behind him. The creature was dormant when we arrived. We accidentally woke part of it. Understanding spread rapidly among the scientists. Every missing expedition, every vanished probe, every strange signal, they all suddenly made sense. The human continued moving. "We learned something important before the others escaped." The captain frowned. "The others?" A small smile appeared. "Somebody had to stay behind." The bridge fell silent. Nobody needed further explanation. The human had volunteered. Not because anyone ordered him, not because he expected recognition, because someone needed to protect everyone else. The queen watched from her palace and felt the same emotions she had experienced as a child: gratitude, respect, and disbelief at how far humans would go for others. The human finally stopped running and activated a device attached to his equipment pack. Several scientists immediately recognized it. A planetary containment beacon, ancient, experimental, dangerous. The lead researcher's eyes widened. He has been maintaining the containment field all these years. The realization stunned the entire alliance. Decades. One human had spent decades keeping the creature trapped on Omega Prime, while the rest of the galaxy remained unaware. The swarm approaching orbit suddenly changed direction. Instead of attacking the survey vessel, the creatures turned and raced back toward the gigantic entity rising from the planet. The scientists quickly understood why. The containment field was weakening. The creature was trying to break free, and every lesser organism on the planet was responding to its awakening. The human looked directly into the camera. "I can reactivate the field." Relief immediately spread across the bridge. Then he continued, "But I can't do it alone anymore." Without hesitation, the captain issued new orders. Every available power system was redirected. The ship descended toward the atmosphere. Engineers, scientists, pilots, and technicians worked together. Humans and aliens alike. No debates, no fear-driven arguments. Just action. For perhaps the first time in galactic history, dozens of species united around a lesson humanity had practiced for generations. When someone stands alone against impossible odds, you stand beside them. The survey vessel entered the storm. Lightning struck the shields repeatedly. Winds battered the hull. Sensors failed, systems overloaded. Yet the crew pushed forward. Hours later, the containment network came online. One beacon became 10, 10 became hundreds. Ancient systems buried across Omega Prime awakened together. Energy spread across the planet. The massive creature slowed, then stopped. The storms gradually weakened. The ground became still. For the first time in recorded history, Omega Prime fell silent. Cheers erupted throughout the ship. Across the Galactic Alliance, billions celebrated. The extinction threat had ended. The mystery was solved. And the human who had carried the burden for decades was finally safe. Several weeks later, the Queen personally traveled to meet him. The reunion took place beneath a clear sky on a peaceful Alliance world. No storms, no danger, no throne between them. For a moment, neither spoke. Then the Queen smiled. "You never told me your name," the human laughed softly. "Never seemed important?" "It was important to me. For the first time in many years." The burden seemed gone from his shoulders. Around them, representatives from dozens of civilizations watched quietly. Their view of humanity had changed forever. Humans were not feared because they came from a death world. They were respected because they carried the lessons of a death world wherever they went: persistence, adaptability, courage, the refusal to abandon others. The galaxy had spent centuries studying human strength. Only now did it truly understand human character. As the sun set over the horizon, the Queen looked toward the stars and thought about the frightened child she once was. A child saved by a stranger from Earth, a human who had crossed impossible distances, survived impossible worlds, and protected people who would never know his sacrifices. In that moment, the greatest lesson of humanity became clear. The strongest humans were not those who conquered death worlds. They were the ones who faced impossible odds and chose to help others anyway. And that was why, no matter how dangerous the universe became, humanity would never stand alone. Thanks for watching this story. If you enjoyed this HFY science fiction adventure, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more epic stories.